brighter future for all people around the world. So we have a firm belief that, building solidarity with each other will only make us stronger, the imperialists weaker. We know it's already happening. This, imperialist empire is in a very desperate state, which is why we see fascism growing more and more repressive and intense. It's kind of like, sort of a dog that's been cornered, and like, and it's really trying to show its vicious fangs, right, to the people. And that's kind of what's happening to the imperialist system right now. It's dying, and it's desperately holding on to power because more and more people are rising up. And we know that the more intensified the repression becomes, the people fight back. The saying goes, repression breeds resistance. That's what we see happening in the world today. And we can't emphasize enough the need to get organized as women and to link up with other broader movements of solidarity and resistance, so we can ultimately bring down the system and live a brighter future without exploitation and oppression.
Right on. Thank you, Donna. Yeah. International solidarity is what's going to save us. Like you're saying, it's only getting worse. So we do ask that you stick around for the question and answer segment of the program. If folks are listening right now and want to ask questions, please enter them in the chat. Be sure to include where you're tuning in from and your name, and questions will be answered near the closing of the program. So I will pass it back over to my comrade, Nicole, for a fundraiser update.
So it looks like we have raised $220 so far. Thank you so much again, Shakira and Coco. Thank you. You pledged a monthly sustaining donor at 10 a month. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And if you're listening and want to contribute to this powerful work, please scan the QR code, which is at the top of the screen. Thank you to the donations that have come so far. And thank you. Oh, we have officially raised our upcoming goal is now $2,280. And so we getting there. We are getting there.
Ooh, I'm gonna jump in, comrade.
Okay, comrade.
I'm seeing them too. So
Ella Baker level, which is $25 a month. Harriet Tubman level, which is $50 a month. And Zinge Fancy level is $84 a month. The more you give, the more we were able to do. Oh, $25.
Okay. Sorry about that out there. Anybody heard that?
Adoptee, she draws on personal experience to connect with and empower others in the adoption community. Currently, she is working to establish an organization dedicated to supporting adult adoptees by providing resources, advocacy, and a space for self-discovery and healing. Through her work, she aims to foster understanding, connection, and lasting change for adoptees, navigating their unique journeys. Kettia, welcome to this space.
Thank you for having me on today.
We have something very special in common. I am also an adoptee, so it is really my pleasure to be able to interview you.
Oh,
So,
there is
okay.
no way. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so my first question is, in what ways does or will the work you do or you're building with the Adoption Network challenge the colonial narratives and the structures that have seen historically influenced through the adoption practices?
So, in listening to the previous speakers, my work mirrors that of Comrade Amanda and definitely overlaps with the work that the other speakers are doing. I heard words like kidnapping, communities are capable of caring for themselves, and we are capable of caring for ourselves. The work that I'm building in adoption advocacy directly tackles colonial narratives and power structures that have historically shaped adoption practices. Adoption, particularly transracial and international adoption, has often been rooted in systems of displacement, assimilation, and the erasure of disempowered communities. My advocacy seeks to challenge these structures in the following 6 ways: centering adoptive voices over institutional and adoptive parent narrative. Historically, adoption narratives have been dominated by adoptive parents, agencies, and institutions that frame adoption as a benevolent act of rescue. This narrative reinforces a power imbalance where adoptees are viewed as passive recipients rather than individuals with rights, agency, and lived experiences of loss. My work prioritizes adoptee-led discussions, ensuring that policies and practices are shaped by those who have experienced adoption firsthand. Number 2, reframing adoption from a justice perspective rather than a charitable act. Adoption has often been positioned as a solution to poverty, war, and instability, particularly for children from non-Western countries. This framing ignores the systemic inequalities often created by colonial and imperialist policies that lead to family separations in the first place. My advocacy challenges the idea that adoption is saving children and instead calls attention to the need for family preservation, social support, and ethical reform. 3, demanding accountability for adoption-related trauma and exploitation. Many past and present adoption practices have been shaped by exploitative systems that profit from the displacement of children. This includes coercive adoptions, the erasure of adoptee identities, and the lack of post-adoption support. My work seeks to expose and challenge these injustices, advocating for policy changes that prioritize adoptee rights, ethical adoption practices, and reparative justice for those harmed by unethical adoption. And 4, advocate open records and the right to identity. This is very important to me. Sealed adoption records are a direct legacy of colonial control over identity and heritage, preventing adoptees from accessing their own histories. By fighting for open records, I challenge the structures that continue to deny adoptees their right to personal and ancestral knowledge. This work is particularly critical for transracial and international adoptees who often experience forced cultural assimilation. And this is very important to me personally because I do struggle from health issues. And unfortunately, despite the fact that I was under the impression that I had an open adoption, ago, I learned that I had a closed adoption. And so I do not have the right to view the papers and records of my adoption. 5, amplifying intersectional and decolonized perspective on adoption. Colonial adoption structures have disproportionately impacted indigenous, Black, and other marginalized communities, framing their children as more adoptable while ignoring systemic issues like forced displacement, economic disenfranchisement, and cultural genocide. My advocacy intentionally amplifies voices from these communities and works in solidarity with other movements fighting against colonial and racial injustices. 6, pushing for family preservation and ethical adoption alternatives. Instead of treating adoption as the primary solution to child welfare concerns, my work pushes for policies that strengthen families and communities. This includes advocating for economic support, mental health services, and legal protections that allow families, especially in historically colonized regions, to remain intact rather than being torn apart by systemic inequalities. It is important that we build a future beyond the colonial adoption system. By challenging these narratives and structures, my advocacy aims to transform adoption from a system of displacement and control into one that genuinely prioritizes the well-being, autonomy, and voices of adoptees. The ultimate goal is not just reform, but a complete reimagining of child welfare that centers justice, accountability, and adoptee empowerment.
Thank you so much for that. You really dove into my next question already, which was, how does your advocacy and organization you're building seek to disrupt these systems and create a framework rooted in self-determination and healing? If you could give me maybe 1 or 2 things that specifically speaks to this, but before you do that, I just wanted to share with you, I also had an issue. I came from a closed adoption as well, and got a chance to find my family a couple of years ago because I went on a DNA site. And there are feelings on these DNA sites. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But I was able to get in touch with my biological family, and it was absolutely life-changing. And so I really wanted to just thank you for sharing your experience, because I don't think it's an easy experience to go through. And coming from someone like you, that I don't have access to my original papers, and I think that it is an atrocity, and I think it's unfair, and it should be illegal for them to keep our knowledge away from us. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. Before we moved on to this next question, and that's really, how does your advocacy and organization seek to disrupt these systems and create a framework rooted in self-determination and healing?
This is something that I came to consciousness about. And I really feel very passionate about changing this system, because, as you mentioned, it's not fair. And to answer your question, we seek to reject the colonial narrative of rescue and assimilation. The Western adoption framework frames non-Western and marginalized children as being better off raised by wealthier and often white families. And we really want to disrupt this narrative by reframing adoption as an issue of justice and advocating for adoptees to right to identity and challenging assimilation expectation. And I think it's very important to ensure that adoption discussions include adoptive voices. My organization builds an adoptee-led movement advocating for open records, citizenship rights, and policy changes that recognizes adoptees as autonomous individuals rather than perpetual children. This one bothers me a lot because when people refer to adopted children or to adoptees, they will say adopted children. And so they seem to think that we are children forever, and that is not the case. And as far as pushing for systemic change beyond adoption, rather than just reforming adoption, my work addresses the broader systemic forces, global inequality, racialized child welfare policies, and economic disenfranchisement that drives family separation. By prioritizing justice, reparations, and adoptee empowerment, we move toward a future where adoption is not an industry of displacement, but a last resort solution grounded in ethics and human rights. While some progress has been made in adoption reform, most of it has been led by adoptive parents and agencies rather than adoptees themselves. For real systemic change, adoptees must have a seat at the table in shaping adoption laws, policies, and post-adoption support. By organizing, adoptees can advocate for their own rights, ensure ethical reforms, and shift the conversation toward one that acknowledges the lifelong complexities of adoption. And also, the organization will seek to build solidarity and work directly with the people of Haiti to raise awareness about the true plight of adopted children. This effort aims to prevent families from continuing to relinquish
Forms. Our ANWO YouTube. And welcome. Today's discussion is brought to you by the African National Women's Organization. ANWO is headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, and addresses the systemic oppression, exploitation, and marginalization of African Black women across the globe. We fight against economic, social, and political barriers that prevent African women from living free, dignified, and self-determined lives. My name is Zaid Wadisa, and I serve as a membership and coordinator, and I will be one of your MCs in today's webinar. I will later comrades later in the discussion. Please be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on our platforms. Our ANWO YouTube is fairly young, so we ask that you hit that subscribe button to help us reach 500 subscribers. And don't forget to share with your network today. This will be the first of many webinars to help ANWO meet our goal of $50,000 to open up the Liberation Center. Today's fundraising goal is $2,500. If you feel moved to donate, you can scan the QR code on the screen and that'll take you directly to our donation page. In today's discussion, we will hear from women involved in anti-colonial struggle to be free, with guest appearances from Amanda Wallace, Donna, Denina, and Kettia Pittus. So without further ado, I welcome the president of ANWO, Yejide Umineefa.
Uhuru, comrades. I hope that I can be heard. And welcome so much to our first fundraising webinar of 2025. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we're doing this webinar and what the webinar is going to add to it. So the name of this webinar is Voices of Freedom, Anti-Colonial Women's Struggle for Self-Determination. And what we're going to be showing you today, or what you're going to be hearing, is the different ways in which women are involved in the anti-imperialist fight and different strategies to get there, to really chip away at the imperialist monster that we currently live under. Not just because Trump has been elected, but because this is what we live. We live under colonialism. We have to destroy colonialism in order for the world to be free of it. And the way that we do that is through organizing and building, our capacity for our movement. So we are also doing this webinar in tribute to our ANWO Liberation Center, listed at 4617 Natural Bridge Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri. We were able to complete our first phase of work, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about what we've done so far and get you all up to date. Thank you. The African National Women's Organization Liberation Center is an ambitious initiative born from the vision to transform 4617 Natural Bridge Avenue into a vibrant facility. This space, generously donated by the African People's Education and Defense Fund, will become a working class embassy, a hub for community empowerment, and a testament to the resilience of African people. Located at the heart of North St. Louis, a community deeply affected by centuries of colonial exploitation, our mission is clear: to uplift and empower. We acknowledge the stark realities of poverty, health disparities, and violence that plague our community. Our aim is to reverse these trends and create a thriving international hub for African people. But we can't achieve this vision alone. We need your support to bring this dream to life. Your donation toward our goal of raising $60,227 will fund the comprehensive rehabilitation of the property, including crucial steps like installing kitchen and bathrooms, full electrical upgrade, installing new plumbing, repairing the roof, reinforcing decks and fencing, and transforming the front facade. Why should you donate? Because every contribution brings us one step closer to providing working class African women with a property of their own, a place where they can heal, organize, and thrive. Why are we doing this? Because we are committed to advancing the cause of African self-determination. Our center will provide vital cultural, social, and community spaces that celebrate African people and serve as a catalyst for change. Our vision includes creative and incubator residencies to nurture talent, community childcare to support families, and a safe place site to offer refuge and support. Additionally, as the headquarters of the African National Women's Organization, the center will serve as a national and local organizing space empowering African women and femmes in our struggles against the impact of colonial capitalism. Your support can make a profound difference in our efforts to uplift African women and femmes, empowering those who have been marginalized. Join us in our mission to strengthen our community, nurture resilience, and pave the way for a brighter, more equitable future. Together, we can ensure that the flame of African self-determination burns brighter than ever before. So this is why we're organizing this webinar tonight. It's really important for us as African women to be able to be self-determined and build on our community and call on our community to help create a great space for our community. And the way we envision the Liberation Center is that it's going to be this space that's going to be super dope, right? First of all, it's going to be dope. It's going to be to our entire community, not just African women. It's going to be a space that we can organize. It'll be our headquarters, also be a public community space. And so we're really looking forward to extending the next phase of our work. We were excited to complete the first phase of our work, which happened over the summer. The first phase was to fix this roof, y'all. This roof was kind of crazy, and we'll show you some befores and afters, but it was kind of crazy, and it was really important for us to do that because obviously the elements were going to come in. So we did post a video about that, and I'm going to share it. The African National Women's Organization Liberation Center is an ambitious initiative born from the vision to transform.
Hello, it's yesterday, and we're here at the ANWO Liberation Center. Not much has changed except we have a new roof. So we don't no longer can have like any water or other elements coming in, and we are on to our next stages of operation, which is to fix up the inside and clear some things out, take down some walls. But we just wanted to thank you all for donating to this project and allowing us to put on a new roof to the ANWO Liberation Center to allow us to start the real work. Thank you so much. There are fresh wood pieces here that were placed in the roof. You can see it more over here. It is all new wood in the roof. So we're grateful to finally get that done and have that replaced. So yeah.
We were lucky enough to work with different contractors, and most that have been associated with the Black Power Blueprint. Black Power Blueprint has been a project in St. Louis that has been initiated by our party in the office of the deputy chair. And this is transforming the north side of St. Louis, creating meeting spaces and community spaces for our community to enjoy. And this is just one more step in that. We've had the Uhuru House, Aquaba Hall meeting space. We have the Uhuru Kitchen, which is under threat right now by the city of St. Louis. They're not giving us the permit to get it open. But there are other spaces as well that we have. We have the workforce development building that is tied to re-entering citizens, people coming out of prisons, and allowing them to get employment at our GCO kitchen and have places to stay so that they can be a part of society and that they can be a part of revolutionary work. So the Liberation Center is a part of this whole trajectory of transforming the north side of St. Louis, but also it's about creating liberated territory, creating a strip of street where all you see is red, black, and green flags, and you see the community enjoying the buildings that we have recaptured from the parasitic contractors that are in the city right now that are creating these spaces that are priced out of people's pricing points, right? So we have the ability, we have the means, and we also need the community to support these projects too, because they're going to benefit you. And I do want to show some of the close-up images of the roof, because I think it's worth showing because it was a lot. So the very first image is showing, where is it? There we go. It's showing the Google Earth of the roof, right? Like, so it might be a little bit blurry on your screen, but that was the roof before it got started, right? Like it was this crumpled up. If you see roofs right next to it, they all look beautiful and nice, but that little gray roof looks horrible. So we knew that we had to do something about it, right? So this was our contractors on top of our roof, digging up all the tar and all of the other extra stuff that was there and breaking it down for us. They were able to clear everything off and then start to put on, replace broken parts of the roof that were allowing the elements to get in, and even restructuring some of the structures of the roof, like taking this down because it wasn't needed. And it was also letting in water, so we had to shore that up. So this is the final images of our roof. This is what all your donations have allowed us to do. It was over $10,000 to replace this roof, and we could never have done that without your support over the years and the resources that you had donated through membership, through straight donations, through all of that. And we just appreciate all of those donations that came into us. So we're continuing that trend because we want to get to the last part of our work, which is the second part of our work, which is to get the Liberation Center internal stuff done. We need plumbing, we need electricity, we need all of that. And so we're trying to raise in today's webinar $2,500 to get us there. So we invited these other comrades to come into this meeting so that we can share with you all like what these amazing women are doing and how they're contributing to the anti-colonial struggle. And as more people come in, and even if they don't come in, you'll be able to see this later and be able to donate because we want you to. There's also a donate little QR code up in the corner, so don't wait till we make a fundraising call. You can donate now, and you can donate later, but you can donate now, and even when this is on repeat afterwards, this QR code is active right now. So please click on it, or you can go to anwouhuru.org/donate and make a donation today. So we'll announce them throughout the program, and we appreciate anything you're able to give. But our goal today is $2,500, and we're struggling to make sure that we can reach that. So with that, I'm just going to hand it back over to my comrade Nicole, who's going to go into our first interview with our comrades. Nicole, you want to come back up on screen? Thank you, comrade.
Everybody, thank you, comrade. Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Chung. I am ANWO's secretary. I am the ANWO secretary to the International Executive Committee. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. And I want to just quickly introduce our first guest. Her name is Amanda Wallace. She has founded Operation Stop CPS in May of 2021, a grassroots organization that works with families and community partners to resist local child welfare agencies. Operation Stop CPS has assisted in campaigns that have seen the return of over 20 children back to their communities. If we were in church, I'd say give a round of applause, because that is a big deal. Prior to launching Operation Stop CPS, Amanda was a child abuse investigator for 10 years in North Carolina. Armed with this insider knowledge, Amanda co-authored the Respond in Power Guide, a guide parents and caretakers can use when engaging with the system. Amanda also co-chairs the Black Mothers March on the White House Coalition, which held its first mobilization in Washington, D.C. in 2022. Before we bring her on screen, we want to show you the collaborative work that we do together as Arrest CPS and Operation Stop CPS.
Arrest CPS now! Arrest CPS now! Arrest CPS now! Arrest CPS now! CPS in your hood ain't no good. CPS in my hood ain't no good. This stop, fight back. Let's take our kids back. This stop, fight back. Let's take our kids back. CPS, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Oh, y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here at the second annual Black Mothers March on the White House. Get loud, y'all. Come on, y'all. All we know is that we're building power, and we're going to get our kids back through hook or crook. And right now, what we're doing is bringing together all of the organizations, all of the people who care about Black lives, who know that in order for us to survive, that we have to fight back. Fist up!
That video, I think the internet is going down, but it brings back so many wonderful memories of the first time I was able to come to the Black Mothers March. And Amanda, I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing and the work that you've done with us. And I'm just really excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for being here. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna just get to it.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the invitation. Definitely shout out to President Yesterday, and then for you and Zaid for holding this space and organizing this space. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge that too.
Child Protective Services, rather family policing, has its roots in the colonial system of control that has historically torn apart Black and Indigenous families. How does your work with Operation Stop CPS challenge colonialism?
Yeah, I mean, we challenge it by acknowledging that that's what we're actually challenging, right? I think that for a lot of people who think of Child Protective Services, and especially if you don't see it as a system of family policing, they see it as this benevolent system, right? This system that is trying to protect children. But how we challenge it is the understanding that this is a tool of state control, right? That this is not anything new. It's not anything that is for our people, that it is actually the harm. The existence of the system is the harm. And it is the reason why, people, African women, right? We can't sit there and fight for the revolution because they have our children, right? Like that's where our mind is, right? And so understanding that again, that this is a tool of state control, and then challenging that through these state systems, these state powers. Here in North Carolina, where I'm located in Durham, North Carolina, the family policing system is a state sponsored system, but it's county administered. Right. And so like the state gets the money and it's supposed to create the laws and the power structure for this system. But each county makes up their own policies. They make their agencies make up their own culture. And so how we've challenged it is to really get local, right? Get on the ground and to like understand who is who, and understanding like how like all of these systems are working for each other. And so that looks like showing up to court watch. I remember when we first started court watching here in Durham, it was a whole lot of retaliation, right? They did not want the community to come in because they want to hide what's going on inside of these courtrooms. But the way that we're challenging this is to show up. Like this is a system that is a taxpayer funded system, but you don't want the community, the taxpayers, to come in here and look at what you're doing. If you're really supporting families, why not let people in, right? And so it's, again, allowing people to challenge that belief, because a lot of people think that if your child is taken away, then you must have done something wrong. That belief alone takes so much time to challenge. You know what I'm saying? Like that belief alone, because if you're saying no, this is a tool of state control. And if you come into the courtroom and you watch, then you'll see that this child was taken away because maybe they didn't have housing. Maybe they ran out of food stamps. Maybe like just all of the other systematic, oppression has reached this family, right? And so if you were able to come into the court, you would be able to see that. But then also being able to challenge the thought that we should take people's children away and pay strangers to take care of those children versus giving those material needs to the families right there, right? And so I think when people are able to see that, we really are able to challenge the belief in this system, right? The belief. And like you read in my bio, like I believed in this system for a long time. I believed that I was helping families. I believed that, that I was doing the right thing. But like, if you actually understand, like I said, like that the very existence of the system, and I'm talking to people today that like might still be inside of the system. Like the people inside are what's holding it up. It's what's holding it up. And so again, it's really trying to, they don't like it when we call them kidnappers and we say that, that they're stealing people's children. But I wish that somebody would have like looked me in my face 10 years before, and been like, yo, this is what's really going on in this system. And so like, that's again, how we're just trying to challenge that, but also trying to challenge the notion that communities can't take care of themselves, right? Like, I think that's how policing has stayed, harm's gonna happen, crime's gonna happen, we need the police. Same thing with family policing, right? People think that, harm is gonna happen. I want the family policing system to be abolished, and I do not want any child to be harmed. Two things can exist at the same time, right? I believe that communities can take care of themselves. Villages could take care of themselves. And it's not because of my imagination. It's because I know that that's what was happening before this system of colonialism, right? Before we were stolen and brought over here and used for exploitation. I know that to be true. So like, I am able to challenge that by saying, give resources directly to families, right? Give resources directly to the communities that are in the communities and helping families. That's why, of course, when you said like, let's have this conversation, let's have this conversation because we need people to donate, right? And we need to raise this $2,500 because we need to be able to build these life-affirming institutions that hold up, our communities. And so yes, that's how we're challenging this system.
So you really answered my next question. In your experience as child abuse investigator, you witnessed firsthand how the family policing operates as an extension of state power. You definitely went over that, often targeting Black and poor families disproportionately. You also just went over how you see colonialism reflected in the child welfare system. My next question is, what strategies do you use to abolish it? I know you went over a little bit, but can you go a little bit more in depth about it?
Yeah. So like storytelling and like really speaking truth to power is definitely a tactic that like we use in a strategy. We, again, when it comes to just capturing those moments, you put out a film, To Be Invisible, that was directed by Maya Overstreet, and she came to Durham, North Carolina, and she just was in community with two mamas who was fighting for their babies who had been trapped in this system. And even like today, when I like watch it, and we've had many screenings of this film, right? And it is a footnote though in like the reality, right? Because Kelly and Alexis which are the moms that's in this story. They don't have to keep telling what happened to them over and over again. They don't have to keep saying like, this is what happened. And also they represent so many more people, right? And so again, that's what we have to like be able to storytell and to challenge it so that people think, okay, well, everybody can't be lying, right? Everybody can't be lying. And so just really trying to challenge that. Also, when it looks like going to like these county commissioner meetings and the city council meetings, when I'm talking about like challenging state power, that's extremely important. Recently, Cop City, they're trying to build a Cop City here in Durham. And I saw it as a way to be able to link the struggles, right? And because we need people to understand that policing is policing, right? Like that's just what it is. But what we were able to do with that is to organize people to these meetings, right? Organize a whole bunch of people to these meetings to be able to put that like on the forefront. And not just with Cop City, we've done it for parents who have been impacted, coming to the county commissioner meetings and being able to like speak truth to power. Also, when it comes to mutual aid, like being able to build mutual aid, like for your people is something that like you have to do. And it's not even like, you need like a whole bunch of money for like rent or this and the fourth, but like maybe you need an Uber to go somewhere, or maybe you need to like get some groceries or like those things, like being able to have like some like mutual aid supports for people. Is also like a tactic. Also bail money. And like we just had a mama that just got locked up like 2 weeks ago. Like people being able to like get out, and not for nothing that people's mind go to, but because she was speaking truth to power and they held her in contempt. But like if we're gonna be doing this work and we're gonna be challenging the system, and we know that the cage is also a system, a tool of state power, we gotta have the resources to be able to get out, like, and get our folks out if we like really challenging it out. So yeah, that's just what I would say in regards to those tactics.
Thank you so much, Amanda. We are out of time. If you have a question for Amanda, please type it in the chat. Questions will be answered later on. Thank you so much for coming today. And the work that you do is so amazing. So amazing.
Appreciate being here.
Girl. Thank you so much, Amanda. I look forward to the Black Mothers March this year, which will be happening on Mother's Day in Washington, D.C. That's Sunday, May 11th. All right, so as a reminder, our fundraising goal for today is $2,500. If you are listening and would like to donate, please let us know in the chat. If we had 10 people donate $250, our goal would be met. We can take either one-time payments, or you can become a monthly sustainer. You can scan the QR code at the top of the screen or visit anwoohuru.org/donate. Every dollar counts. No amount is too small. You know, we want to get the Liberation Center up and running in the year 2025. The colonial crisis is only deepening and we are the solution. So at this time, we're going to do a quick presentation. Can we bring up the presentation?
Keep talking, comrade. I'm working on it. Go ahead. Keep chatting.
Okay, no worries. So yeah, like I said, thank you for tuning in. We are going to continue to host these fundraising webinars until we meet our goal. I believe earlier was said that our goal is $50,000, and there's a lot of work to be done. As you saw in some of the photos, we got the roof replaced, but there's much more that needs to be done, and we will need your help in completing this goal.
I got it.
All right, awesome.
All right. Let me get it up 1 second.
Go on to the next slide. So our struggle against colonial capitalism must be rooted in the actual colonized territories that we occupy. This is the essence of dual and contending power. The victory of our party will come as a consequence of our success, transforming every colonized African community into a conscious, active opponent of colonialism. We will take organization and ideological development to the heart of the African working class communities, where the colonial contradictions are concentrated. So that is a quote from Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and he laid out his vision for the regional strategy for the Uhuru movement. And vision calls on all areas of our movement to establish political and economic hubs that will transform the ground position from one of apathy to one of forwarding the revolution. So next slide, please. So you will hear several calls for resources throughout today's program. ANWO needs your support to carry out the Liberation Center project. Your donation of resources allows us to continue to do the revolutionary work which is needed to overturn colonialism and win the masses to the Uhuru movement. Next slide, please. As previously stated, the fundraising goal for the Liberation Center is $50,000. If anyone wants to donate a lump sum, now is the time. But seriously, we need now more than ever for people's support and belief in ANWO to materialize as financial resources in order to get this project off the ground. So our goal today is $2,500 for this webinar. Next slide, please. So the goals of the ANWO's headquarters would be, this headquarters would be the face of ANWO. It will be a space for the community to organize African women, a space for our programs, for us to be able to produce and distribute decolonize and our ANWO merchandise. Potential uses for this space would be housing for displaced women and children. As Comrade Amanda just talked about, oftentimes these families are targeted for unmet needs. Another potential use would be our ANWO Cadre School. It could serve as a retail space for our decolonize and our ANWO merchandise, and a place where we can host our Harriet Daughters Book Club. Next slide, please. So, where will your resources go? Ultimately, to the overall rehab of the entire property. Next slide. That includes, but isn't limited to, installing kitchen, bathrooms with fixtures and appliances. The space also needs plumbing, electrical, HVAC. It needs a new water heater. The deck needs to be reinforced, as you can see there. Also the fencing, and to install a new front bottom level by replacing the brick and full view windows. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Next slide. So you can make a one-time donation. Any amount matters. We'll take $500, $100, $25, $5, $10. No amount is too small. Next slide. You also have the ability to become a monthly sustainer. Our monthly sustainers really help us carry out the work. It's consistent, and we know we can count on our donors to help us get our work done. So go ahead and support the leadership of African women. Go ahead and donate today. That QR code is in the corner. Your contributions will help make this work possible. So I'll be keeping an eye on the chat for incoming donations. If you want to donate, go ahead and put it in the chat, how much you'll be donating, and yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. So now our next guest, Donna Denina.
You're not seeing my work, comrade. Before we get started, I do want to acknowledge some donations that are being pledged in the chat. So we have a pledge of $100 from Shakura St. Wally, who's watching on the Burning Spirit TV. And thank you so much, Comrade Shakura. We appreciate you. We'll be following up. And then we also have the Asada level sustaining donation from Coco Lewis, which will be at $120 for the year and $10 for the month. So I'll kick it back over to you to give your appreciations.
Comrades, thank you so much, and keep it coming, keep them coming. We still have a great amount of program left. So yes, thank you, comrades. Our next guest is Donna Denina. She is based in Seattle, Washington, and is the Secretary General for the International Women's Alliance. She has been involved in women's organizing for over 20 years, organizing the Filipino women's fighting for national democracy in the Philippines. She now works to bridge women's struggles together through the work of IWA as a contribution to strengthening the militant women's movement worldwide. Uhuru, Comrade Donna, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for putting this really amazing event together. And please keep those donations running in. ANWO has been doing incredible work. And we're proud to say that, ANWO is also a member organization of IWA. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course. So as a Secretary General of the International Women's Alliance and a longtime member of Guerrilla, how do you see the role of militant women's organizations in advancing the struggle for national democracy and self-determination, particularly in the face of the US imperialist aggression that's going on?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think, first of all, I do want to reiterate that, right now living under the system of imperialism, which is the predominating system in the world today, we know that prioritizes greed and profit over the needs of people. But under this system, it would be impossible to liberate women. So we kind of have to sort of outline why that is. We know that women are very critical to the survival of their communities as mothers, as laborers, food growers, land tillers, land defenders. The list goes on and on. But because of the pervasive nature of the capitalist system, women are the most exploited and oppressed under the system. And US-led imperialism uses the pretense to advocate for women's rights, but has transformed women essentially into commodities for labor, both in the formal and informal sectors of the economy. And women are really viewed by even their own local reactionary states as an endless supply of labor to be exploited, either in their own homes or even in sweatshops and fields. So kind of to scale back a little bit and sort of zoom out under this global capitalist system, women make up 75% of those living under less than $1 a day, which is, scraps, right? And out of the 800 million people in the world who are impoverished and going hungry, majority of them are women and children, even though 60% of women are the ones growing food for the world. And now under Trump, we've been hearing and even seeing thousands being deported back to their home countries, scapegoating migrants as criminals and stealing American jobs. But what's not being talked about is why so many people are forced to leave their home countries in the first place. We know that the brutal US-led imperialist system has for decades been dividing and redividing the world for resources, right? Rivaling with their global economic rivals to race to get the natural resources by waging wars and different proxy wars, which of course, women become caught in the crossfires of these wars. But these are the main drivers for why so many people are displaced and forced to leave their home countries in the millions. And so majority of these migrants who are, leaving their home countries are women. So amidst all of this, anti-immigrant sentiment in the US and other places in the global North, what's so ironic is that many of the governments enact policy programs that actually encourage more forced migration, right? Through things like the labor export policy, because they depend on this migrant labor to squeeze out more super profits for their exploited labor. So going back to the question, like what role do militant women's organizations have in advancing the struggle for national democracy and self-determination? Given the context that women are living under in the world today, the number one enemy of women is imperialism. So it's imperative that women participate in the process of liberating the people from the system of oppression. And in the process, women are also liberating themselves. So as IWA, the International Women's Alliance, we really try to provide a platform for progressive and grassroots women's organizations to realize their own distinct role as women and other oppressed genders in advancing the rights and demands of women, while also working alongside their male counterparts. We can't really do this alone, right? And also other oppressed classes and genders to contribute to the general movement for national and social liberation against imperialism and all reaction. We have to link arms together in this fight against the oppressive system. And so IWA also plays a role in addressing the multiple oppressions and exploitation that women suffer from, to help raise the political consciousness of women, especially those women who are deprived of learning their rights, sometimes not allowed to even get an education, and therefore they're deprived of their right to self-determination. So we try to really especially uplift national liberation struggles that are already actively being waged against US imperialist domination and fascism, and respect their right to self-determine their own path to liberation in places like Palestine, the Philippines, India, Kurdistan, Afghanistan, the Western Sahara, across Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Pacific, and all across the African continent. We know that when we contribute to our own national liberation struggles or uplift the struggles of those in the colonies and neo-colonies, we reinforce the strength of the international fight, and at the same time, we weaken the tentacles of imperialism because they rely on, sucking out the resources of their colonies and neo-colonies. We have to cut off their supply of resources, cut off their supply for exploiting cheap labor, and also cut off the supply towards the source of their wealth, right? We know the imperialists amass large amounts of wealth because of this system that has been in place for so long. So we view these national liberation struggles as a beacon of hope, where many women have also, participated, even taking up arms in the name of national liberation, to advance their revolutionary aspirations, to free their people. And in this revolutionary process, they also free themselves. So that's the hope and desire of IWA to really help advance the role that women play in contributing to the overall liberation and freedom for all people worldwide.
Thank you so much, Donna. So my next question is, given the increasing attacks on anti-imperialist movements worldwide, how can revolutionary women's organizations like IWA strengthen international solidarity and build a united front against neocolonialism and capitalist exploitation?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we're a global network. It's, embedded even in the name of our organization. So we do believe in weaving together the different issues and struggles of women to the overall struggle of all oppressed and exploited people around the world. We can't really separate, what generally most people are suffering under. And women actually have a very particular experience when it comes to the overall oppression of people under the imperialist system. And so to do this, IWA believes in really linking up with other networks and coalitions and other tactical formations as a tactic, right? For the purpose of building a broad united front built on unity and solidarity of people who really want to expose, oppose imperialism, and to rid ourselves of this rotten exploitative system. IWA is also not just trying to build its own united front of women, right? We're also a network and alliance of grassroots women and other oppressed genders, but we also try to participate in other networks and affiliations that address, specific issues and raise particular demands of women. Some examples of this, we're part of the Global Women United Against NATO, really pointing to these, war infrastructures that impact women around the world. We're also part of a migrant women's network, particular to the Asia Pacific region, because we know so many of the people from that particular region are being forced out of their homelands to work as migrant laborers for the global north. We work with the International League of People's Struggle to strengthen anti-imperialist struggles around the world. And we're also working with the International People's Front, which is a broad coalition, united front formation that works with different people's organizations, but also political parties and other institutions